Good morning.
Good morning.
And Shana Tova. I am Julia Chris, one of the Jewish Union or Junion co-heads. We all have many pressures and stresses here at Westminster about where we will go in life. I brought up this with my father the other day, as he told me, according to Jewish tradition, the fetus is not considered viable until it graduates medical school. Though I do not have any medical aspirations, I do stick to Jewish tradition most of the time. As you may know, this past Sunday through Tuesday night was Rosh Hashanah, or the Jewish New Year, for the year 5777. We say Shana Tova around this time, which is a wish of a good and sweet New Year. I wondered why we say good and sweet. There isn't much of a difference between the two words. Good is sweet and sweet is good. I asked my rabbi and he explained, when good things happen in our lives, we don't always know that they are good in the moment. For example, you might do badly on a test or do the unspeakable and miss a timing pin. In the moment, it seems to be a terrible thing, but later on you notice that that mishap had a positive effect. It may take a week, month, year, or decade to see the positive, but the belief is everything happens for the better, even mistakes. But when something sweet happens, you know it is sweet, like the sweet taste of apples and honey we eat on Rosh Hashanah. Though you may not like the flavor, you know it is sweet. So we say Shana Tova in hope that all things the coming year will be good and sweet in the moment and retrospectively. So I wish you all Shana Tova. The holiday following Rosh Hashanah is Yom Kippur, the high holy day of atonement, which will be next Tuesday night to Wednesday night. Now I would like to introduce Rabbi Samuels from the Chabad of Farmington Valley. We've invited him here to talk about the stories and traditions behind Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Please welcome Rabbi Samuels.
Wow, let's start. Good morning. Thank you, Julia. It's an honor to speak with you here this morning. You know, I don't know if you know, but you give a rabbi a microphone, you guys are stuck here for like the whole day. Recently, President Obama went to the Chabad Center in Washington, D.C. He was there for the service, and he was very impressed, and he sat next to someone, and every few minutes he would say to him, "So what's the significance of what they're doing now?" And the fellow would explain, and so on throughout the service. And at one point, the rabbi stood up to speak. He took off his watch, put it on the lectern, and the president leans over and says, "So what's the significance of the watch?" And the fellow said, "Absolutely nothing." So today, we're here to speak about what we know as the Jewish New Year, except it's a little different. You see, normally, when you think about New Year, it's always a big celebration. New Year's a time you go out, you drink, you have a good time, you make a parade, you do big things, you make a resolution or two. They usually last for at least a week. And then you had a new year, and the new year starts, and everyone forgets about it 2 weeks later. The Jewish New Year is a little different. It's a very solemn day. And it's not so much a day of quote-unquote partying, but a day of prayer and introspection. On this day, God judges us. So what does it mean that God judges us? It's a kind of a scary thing. Imagine you're standing in front of God. He knows everything and He judges us. But the truth of the matter is, if you look at the beautiful prayers of the Rosh Hashanah service, it doesn't talk about sin and what we did wrong. It talks about the future. You see, in Judaism, we're not a big fan of spending a long time on regret. Regret is important. When you do something you're not supposed to do, you're supposed to regret it. But then that should take a very short time. Then there should be a focus on, so what am I going to do now? Unfortunately, regret itself can take up everything. I regret it, I feel bad, and therefore I'm not going to do anything. That's not okay. So it's extremely important to focus on, so I did something I shouldn't have done. What am I going to do now not to do it again? As a matter of fact, if you want to know how to really say you're sorry when you do something to someone and you want to really show that you're contrite and you feel bad, it's don't do it again. Saying you're sorry is great, it's a start. But if you do it again the next day, it sounds hollow. So what is the focus on the high holidays? For us, the focus is about becoming closer to God. And it's about a relationship between the human being and God. And what is this relationship? How do you get closer to God? So in the old Western pictures, there used to be an expression. Gary Cooper in the old used to say, "This town ain't big enough for the both of us." You see, the more there is of us, the less, by definition, there is of God. By definition, as human beings, we're narcissistic to an extent. We see things through our own prism. I'll give you an example that might elucidate this concept. God willing, some of you, your faculty, are married. You'll all get married one day. And when you get married, there are two types of gifts you get on the day of your wedding. Now, gift number one, since the dawn of time, not a single human being has ever complained about. Can you guess what that gift is? That's right, cash. No one ever opens an envelope full of cash and goes, "Oh my God, another $1,000? Never happened. What? Uncle Harry gave us $5,000 in a check. Oh man, again. As a matter of fact, I have news for you. If you ever go anywhere and you think, you know what, money is not personal as a gift, I, for one, would like to get personal with all money. So don't be convinced money isn't personal. It's very personal. But then, as in my case and many, you have what we call the thoughtful relative. You see, these relatives actually take a day off of work. And they go into the city, they go into Manhattan. And they go to Tiffany's, very expensive, beautiful. And they look around for the perfect gift, and there it is. It's a crystal bowl, but it's made by a special artist. I'm going to tell you something a little bit about some types of modern art. You see, what happened is, an artist can't just make a bowl, because then it's not art. So the bowl is lopsided. How did it get lopsided? The machine went wrong a little, so it got lopsided. Now it's considered modern art. So now he's got this bowl, you can't actually put anything in because it's lopsided. And then there's a little sign written by artist so-and-so, and it says only 4 made. I'm going to tell you another secret. The reason only 4 were made is because the first 3 haven't yet sold. So then they figure, this is the perfect bowl. And they get your names engraved on the bowl. And they actually call you a week before the wedding and say, "Have we got a gift for you?" Oh, forget about the wedding. This gift is going to change your life. They actually show up before you do to your own wedding. Those are the people standing there with the box as you get there. And you say, "I'm a little busy. I'm getting married. You got to see the gift. Let's go into a room. Now, how about later?" No, okay. So you open up the box, and you take a look, and you're trying to be nice, and you can't exactly tell what it is, and you say, that's nice. And they say, "Isn't this amazing? It's one of a kind." And you say, "Great, I got to get married now." Throughout the wedding, they'll go, "Whoa, huh?" Then, a week after the wedding, they actually call you and say, "So how's the bowl?" "I don't know, went to college." I've received many such bowls, and I got news for you. It goes into a special closet called a china closet, and you can only use it for a special occasion, which I discovered means that if the President of the United States is walking down the block and says, "I'd like some salad," I think then I can take it out. Other than that, it stays there quietly in the shelf. Now, what's the reason they bought me this bowl? I didn't need a bowl. They bought it because they wanted that I should remember them every time I pass by the bowl. "Oh, isn't that nice? Look what Aunt Harriet got me, that beautiful bowl." You see, if they give me a $100 bill, I won't remember them. And then there's a new concept. It's called a bridal registry, where the bride and groom say, "This is what we need. We need a toaster." Well, right away the relatives are smarter. That's not a very romantic gift, a toaster. I'm not going to get them a toaster. We'll buy them a fancy crystal vase. Now, I've tried to put bread in my vase, no toast. You still got to go to Walmart and buy yourself a toaster. The point is that these people mean well. They're looking for you. But the real thing they're looking for is that they get credit for your gift. When I get married, I'm celebrating my 25th anniversary. When I got married, my first year, I wanted to make a special gift for my wife. There actually was in New York at the time a restaurant called the Glatt Yacht. And this was a restaurant on a boat that went around the Hudson River. The problem is that as Jewish people, we have a little issue with time. So it was called for 7, everyone got there 7:15, the boat always left. So there was like 3 people on this huge boat, and they closed down. But at the time, I decided I had to get a special gift for my wife. Now, I have an uncle in the jewelry business, so I called up my uncle, I said, I want to design a piece of jewelry for my wife. Now, I gotta tell you, I don't know what talents I have, but it's not designing jewelry. I'm also colorblind like a bat, so either way, I went in very excited, and I told my uncle, all right, and I sat there, I put together, I thought the heavier the better, and this was a heavy brooch for my wife, and the colors, if you look directly at them, you'd go blind. And I put it in this box, I was so excited, this is going to be the ultimate gift. And I brought it to my wife, and on this beautiful trip, she opened up, I got this tray with this cover, and she opened it up, and there was the brooch. My wife's a very sweet woman. She took a look and she said, oh, it's one of a kind. I later learned it was more of a prayer. Please let there not be matching earrings or rings. And then I noticed that she never ever wore it. And I was disappointed. So why don't you ever wear this beautiful? She said, do you really want to know? I said, yes. She said, for who did you buy this beautiful brooch? I said, what do you mean for who? For you. She said, I don't think so. I think you bought it for you. I said, for me? I would never wear it. She says, you don't understand. You were hoping that I would go to a wedding and I'd walk around with this very heavy brooch. And people would say, wow, that's beautiful. And I would say, you know, my husband bought it for me. And then you'd walk around going, yep, that's me. Number 1 husband. I said, well, what do you want me to do? She said, do me a favor. Give me the credit card. Let me go out one day and shop for myself. I said, that's so unromantic. I want to see the excitement when you open up a gift. She said, fine. On your birthday, buy me a gift and I'll say, wow. But on my birthday, let me do what I want. The point of all this is that in a relationship between anyone, we at times forget about the other person. I do a lot of marriage counseling. The secret to a good marriage, I know it sounds like people write a lot of books, is that if I am totally thinking about the other person, and the other person is totally thinking about me all the time, you're very happy. If my whole life is about bringing joy to my spouse, and my spouse's whole life is about bringing joy to me, then there's a beautiful union. Usually in counseling, 2 people come and each one argues. I take out the garbage 4 times and she only takes it out 3 times, and I do this and she... You're never ever going to be happy in a friendship where one person and the other person think only about themselves. At the end, it's not a real friendship. You're always going to be disappointed. You're never going to get truly what you desire or want. And the truth of the matter is, when it comes to the high holidays, that's exactly what's happening. It's about a friendship. It's about a relationship. It's about a connection between myself and God. And to take a moment of introspection and to say, you know what, it's not always about me. There are things I need and want from God. I'm very clear. I need money, I need help. God says there are things I would like from you. Sometimes I get it, sometimes I don't. And just like in any relationship, there's an expression that we say that the word why is not kosher. When a person says, my wife says she wants purple curtains, I have no idea why. I don't care. It's not important. It's important to her. By definition, it's important to me. The idea that you feel for someone else, the idea of empathy, the idea of a connection, means that a little less of me has to be there and a little more of someone else. And so when we come to synagogue on these days, we spend our time trying to connect to God, trying to find out, what does God want from me? You know, during that time, we blow what is called the shofar. It comes from the inner depths of who we are. You know, speaking, as you can tell right now, you can talk forever. But blowing the shofar, when you blow the trumpet, if you blow it, you get out of breath, because it comes from the inner essence. It's a very simple cry from the very depths of who you are. to God, asking him to give us, and as Julia said, a sweet year, a year that is obvious with good and blessing. They tell a story of a king who had a son, a prince. The son grew up in the castle. He hadn't experienced the rest of the world. So they said, you know what? Why don't you go out for a year? His father, the king, said, go out for a year, experience the world, come back and show us what you've accomplished. And that's exactly what he did. Got on a boat, traveled. Ultimately, he arrives at this island. He gets off the island, he's amazed. On the floor, instead of sand, are little diamonds. On the trees, instead of apples, are rubies. Instead of pears, emeralds. Instead of plums, sapphires. He's amazed. He begins to stuff his pockets. He did jackpot, he got the best place in the world. He slowly makes his way over to the local tavern. He sits down, he's in a great mood, and he says, drinks for everyone. I'm going to pay for everything. Well, the bartender finally says, all right, it's time to pay up. He pulls out one of these rubies, got to be worth $1 million. He said, I'm feeling generous, that's for you. The bartender says, I don't know if you've been looking outside, but unfortunately, they grow on trees. They're not worth anything here. He said, then what's the currency here? He said, the currency here is chickens. Chickens? Yeah. Very, very rare to have a chicken. So he goes out, gets himself a male and female chicken. Before you know it, he's got a farm full of chickens. He's very successful. It's a year. It's time to go back to his dad to show what he's accomplished. So he goes to Avis Rent-A-Boat. He rents 50 boats, and he stuffs these chickens into the boat. Have you ever been near chickens? They stink. They don't shower. I'm pretty sure they don't use deodorant. They're smelly. He's stuffing these loud chickens into a boat, and you can imagine the procession of 50 boats with these loud chickens. And he arrives on the shore where the royal palace, the king, and everyone is standing. And he says to his dad, look what I accomplished. I got 50 boats full of chickens. His father said, are you crazy? We're missing chickens here. We have 5,000 farms full of chickens. How about rubies, diamonds, emeralds? He goes, oh yeah, I had such an opportunity. What did I do? I forgot to take them. The truth is, we come into the world the same way. Throughout the year, we realize that although there are good deeds, which are diamonds and rubies, you need money. You got to pay the bills. So we make some money, we buy a nice car, a nice house, and then it comes time for us to stand before the Almighty God. And we stand before God. And God says, so tell me, what have you accomplished this year? You say, are you kidding? You think the Porsche got to the parking lot on its own? That's mine. The beautiful house, that's me. And God says, what am I going to do with a Porsche? What did you do for someone else this year? How did you change someone else's life? That's what it's all about. How did you make someone else's life better? And in your relationships with each other, relationships with another, the question always is, what have you done to make a difference in someone else's life? And I have to tell you, as a humble student of this lesson, the Lord has blessed us. I have 6 boys. No girls. My wife doesn't talk to me anymore. 6 boys, thank God. My youngest, unfortunately, is not well. He's a special needs child. And throughout his life, we have nurses and doctors. And I have to tell you that we have been so privileged to meet people that are so unbelievably dedicated to our child. To have a nurse make it feel that it's her child, that there's nothing else in the world more important than your child. That feeling of empathy, of sympathy, is the greatest thing in the whole world. And so, my dear friends, as we come to the high holidays, which is relevant to all of us, and we stand before our Maker, the Creator, and we look at ourselves every once in a while, it's important to take stock. And we think, what have I accomplished this year? What did I do to make a difference in someone else's life? And I'll finish with this anecdote of a father who has a beautiful boat. He hires someone to paint the boat. And while the fellow is painting the boat, he notices that there are 2 holes in the boat. So you know what? He figures he's painting the boat already. He might as well fill in the holes. He gets the right materials, he paints over it, and he fixes the holes. The next morning he brings the boat back to the father. And the children say, "Hey Dad, we're going to take the boat out today." He said, "Sure, go ahead." All of a sudden he remembers there were 2 holes in the boat. He never remembered to fix it. He's in total panic. His children are on the water. And then he sees the boat coming back. And all of a sudden he sees his children safe and sound and realizes that the painter stuffed the holes. And so he runs to the painter. He pays him double for the job. He hugs him. The painter says, "What did I do?" He said, "Are you kidding? You saved my children's life." He said, "All I did was stuff a few holes." He says, "You don't understand. That little action that seems to be so small changed his whole life." My dear friends, it is one small act, an act of kindness, an act of help that you do for someone else, that can change someone else's life. As a little girl walking down the beach, there are millions of starfish, she's throwing them back into the water, and someone says, "Silly girl, what are you doing? There are millions of starfish. You can't save them all." She said, "I know, but for this one, I've saved everything." My dear friends, as we come to the holidays, let us spend some time of introspection, a time of prayer. And you know, God always answers our prayers. Except, as the story goes, the little boy who's playing with his favorite toy, the dump truck, and he's playing with it, and all of a sudden it falls, and it breaks into 1,000 pieces, and he begins to cry, "Oh God, please fix it." And his sister walks by and says, "You silly, you think God is going to fix your truck?" He goes, "I believe God is going to answer my prayers." She comes back an hour later, the truck's still in 1,000,000 pieces, but he's smiling, he's in a good mood. And she says to him, "I don't understand. Did God answer your prayers?" And the little boy says, "He sure did." She said, "Really? What did he say?" He said, "No." God always answers our prayers. At times we don't get it. We're upset. Just like my little children when they were young, and they asked for a lollipop at 4 in the morning, and I would say no. But I always answer them. The question is, it is important every once in a while to take stock of our lives and to ask the question, what have I done today to make a difference in someone else's life? And so, my dear friends, with that thought, I want to wish you all a Shana Tova, a sweet year, that in all of your lives, that everything your heart desires and all the blessings should actually happen even more than you could imagine. And for those who wish to come to services right down the block, Tuesday night and Wednesday, we're right on Hot Meadow, 141. You know you're all welcome. And my dear friends, I am honored, and it is a pleasure to talk to the young of today, who of course, as the old saying goes, are the future of tomorrow. God bless you, and thank you.